Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the second foreign speaker, it's Mr. Adriano Jos, I think. He's from, and I don't know how to pronounce it, EAWAG?
Yes.
EAWAG stands for the German acronym for Eidgenössische Anstalt für Wasserversorgung und Gewässerschutz, and it's the Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Science and Technology. And I don't know if you know the institute, but at least I know them because I once received a report of your institute. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Now, who really is the forerunner? Well, in sports it always depends on the discipline. Nowadays we prefer to speak about tennis than about soccer, in Switzerland at least. And here we maybe prefer to speak at the moment on micropollutants than, for example, with private-public partnership. I think there we would lose the game. But let me get to my topic, which of course is not my personal topics. I'm very happy to try and share a little bit of the logics which I understand behind the Swiss strategies on micropollutants. But of course, it's a big work. I just try to give you the best I can. So, my presentation will focus mainly on two parts. First, an overview of the Swiss strategy, and then look at the two main technologies. Much has been said already on the technologies, but still I think it may be of a certain value to repeat the key points why we did choose these technologies. The first picture is what do we have to do? What are the big sources? And here with this picture I'd like to point out one thing. We think, or at least this is part of the Swiss strategy, we're not only talking about pharmaceuticals. It's a lot of compounds. We have agriculture there. We have consumer chemicals. We have chemicals used in facades. We have, well, it's a big wealth of compounds. And at the moment, we do not really have clear evidence which group of compounds really are the ones that bother. So we're facing a lot of sources, we're facing a lot of compounds, and we're, well, kind of lost. So what did we do? We did an exercise like was presented before by Barry Pieters or Victor Merch. But maybe on a whole nation level, which is from the size not very much different than from the Netherlands or than from North Rhine-Westphalia. So we looked at the rivers all over Switzerland. We looked at how much wastewater was discharged. We looked at single compounds. Do I have a pointer somewhere? Yes. I think yes. This map here shows a study on 6 model compounds, diclofenac, carbamazepine, and few others. We're sure in this study here looking at in which rivers, due to dilution and discharge, do we expect concentrations which are higher than in the lab we find as effect concentrations. And here is a map of the Swiss rivers, which with colored in red those rivers which has the highest amount of wastewater in them. And what is the take-home message? Well, if we have a look at the map of the population density, we see more or less the localities are always the same. The take-home message is very simple of this modeling study, and it's been said before, where we have densely populated area, where we have small rivers, well, there problems do arise, and there, if we look at compounds contained in municipal wastewater, these concentrations are found again in the river at levels which are very likely, according to lab experiments, to cause effects. And this is the basis of a political discourse, saying, well, on this basis we have to do something. Now the first question that was posed politically is, well, what could we do? If we were doing something, how would we control it? What would be the goal of a removal? The studies here, I will not go all the way in details, but the sources of pollutants, the bodies, the water bodies, doing a risk assessment, and then evaluating possible measures. This is all summarized in there. The take-home message is, or the key outcome of this study is, yes, we do have 6 compounds which we think are representative of a whole palette of compounds which basically represent the anthropogenic load that goes through wastewater treatment and into the rivers. So with this study we are convinced, yes, we can formulate a target of what we want to remove, and we will be able to measure whether these targets are reached. The next question is what to do. Which technologies and how and where and so on. And also here we'll come to talk a bit later on the strategy, but there is a report which I think is quite nice because it summarizes why some technologies are currently prioritized, which is powdered activated carbon and ozone, why we do think that at least for the moment these are feasible solutions, these are payable solutions, and how then they would be dimensioned. So this is summarized in here. You can download it. I think the English version is not available, but I'm sure the Dutch are very good in languages, and German will not be a problem, or you can go to the French version. Okay. Besides refurbishing wastewater treatment, which will be the rest of this talk, I want to make sure that wastewater treatment are not the only focus. Besides of that, we do look at source control, and there are ongoing measures, political measures, mainly on green chemistry, on registration and regulation of compounds, on trying to have an informed public which consumes where it makes sense and tries not to consume, or tries to dispose correctly where this is a feasible and payable solution. But in general, the study clearly showed that all these measures are normally long-term measures, while the implementation of upgrading wastewater treatment plant is kind of termed an easy solution, a quick solution. We can do this rather fast. The measures we will be talking about are to be implemented in the next 20 years, starting from probably 2015. Then it's thousands of substances. If you think of how long it took for the REACH regulation to be put into place, and how long it will take for the REACH regulation to cover the most important chemicals, well, we're talking about decades for the REACH regulation. So going by regulations is a very important step. It's absolutely done. It's not to be. It's absolutely not forgotten, but it takes probably more time. And some compounds are very difficult. Pharmaceuticals, we've heard it before, or impossible. Natural estrogens, we can't handle them by legislation. We can't forbid them. Okay. Now, what is the ordinance that currently is being discussed in the Parliament? Where this draft is pretty likely to be passed in few months. It's very difficult to do a prognosis on when it really passed because it's a political process. But according to what I've been told from the capital city, Bern, it really looks like it's pretty close to be going through. Well, the first key issue is, yes, wastewater treatment plants are recognized, like Victor Merch said, as a key source of pollutants. Then the problem is not everywhere. where we have small rivers and high population, this is where the problems really are. So like Victor Merch said before, the strategy will not be that everybody has to do it, but only selected plants. Which ones? Well, in Switzerland we're probably around 100 out of 750, so it's a bit less than in North Rhine-Westphalia. Plants will have to be refurbished. Which ones? All the big ones, because there the cost effectivity is best. Then also smaller ones from 8,000 person equivalents going upwards, if they discharge in sensitive water or if they discharge in waters serving drinking water as drinking water sources. What is the treatment target? If you want to implement measures, you have to formulate a clear target. The target is to have 80% removal of representative compounds, which are benzotriazole. This is an antioxidant used a lot in dishwashers. Carbamazepine, a pharmaceutical. Diclofenac, a pharmaceutical. Micoprop, this is a pesticide. And then sulfamethoxazole, which is an antibiotic. This is what you have to achieve, and the 80% counts from the primary influent to the wastewater treatment to the final effluent. Now, what do you do in between? Which technology? This is not prescribed by law. That's absolutely to the operators to choose. But a clear basis of the study before the political discussion got going was to show that two alternatives are there that allowed for a cost estimation. How high are those costs? Well, they are pretty much in line with what we heard before. For Switzerland, it's an investment of roughly 1 billion euro, which means an annual cost of 130 million Swiss francs per year, which corresponds of 6% of the total cost of wastewater disposal in Switzerland. So what looks like a very big number here tends to be, not that big of a sum if you look at what we are already doing today in total. And part of the law is that 75% of the investment costs will be covered by basically by tax money, by statal money. The other 25%, as also the operating costs, will be covered by the local municipality. This is what is currently being discussed politically and hopefully gets through in the next couple of months. Energy and costs. This is a big issue. There is a lot of discussion. For example, statements like ozonation costs a lot of energy. It's a waste of energy. We need to look at climate, and not climate is priority here. This was discussed. This is will still be discussed. And the numbers we are showing here in terms of electricity, energy consumption, and in terms of cost consumption, from my point of view, allow a very clear conclusion. If we have an environmental benefit of advanced treatment, then we can count electricity and cost probably as negligible in the overall. If we do not have an environmental or drinking water quality advantage, well, then it's not insignificant money, then it's not insignificant additional energy that we consume, then we should rather not do it. So, what are they? Well, the electricity, probably 10 to 30% of the electricity consumption for wastewater treatment would increase if we do advanced treatment for micropollutant removal. But this is 0.1% of the national electricity or the national primary energy consumption. So if we as a society we want to save energy, well, wastewater treatment is not. It's an industry sector like anyone else. But if we get a trade-off of this added consumption of electricity, well, then this trade-off may be much more worth than some added fuel invested in transportation, for example. costs, pretty much the same picture, depending on size of wastewater treatment, a little bit also on process choice and local conditions, between 5 and 35% of increased costs. And in terms of annual costs, that's 12% of the wastewater treatment or 6% of the total wastewater disposal, including sewer costs. The ongoing work, as said, one thing that did strike me a little bit during this political discussion in Switzerland, from quite the very start, when the Federal Office of the Environment did quite some piloting to confirm that ozonation in powdered activated carbon could be potential technologies and what would they cost. But once this was shown, the political discourse never really was whether to do something or not, but it was, the political discussion was always on the financing solution, which measures are to be planned. So rather how to do it and not if to do it at all or not. In Germany now the discussion is picking up pretty much, but at least for a year or so the discussion was still a lot ongoing whether to do something or not, while in Switzerland this never was really a big issue on a political level. The detailed financing solution is still a little bit discussed. I don't know whether it may also be possible in the political discourse that this will delay a final decision because a suitable solution has not yet found. This is still possible. This to the Swiss strategy, and now to the technologies. First, what do the technologies need to do? Well, we need broadband removal. We don't want to focus on estrogens or on, I don't know, gadolinium only or single compounds. We have a mixture of compounds occurring and we want a solution that actually covers this mixture, because currently we do not have a clue which compounds really matter and which ones don't. Then transformation products are an issue. Some biological degradation to a far extent just transforms compound. It doesn't really metabolize or mineralize the compounds itself. So there is an open point on the relevance of transformation products. It's been looked at, and it will be still looked at for some years to come. Then the applicability, the personnel we have today operating the wastewater treatment plant must be in a position to operate the technologies. And then, of course, the cost benefit must fit. What technologies are thinkable? Well, there is quite a palette: adsorption, biological degradation, physical-chemical treatment like nanofiltration, reverse osmosis, so dense membrane, oxidations. A lot of technologies have been proposed, and I think we're looking forward to a time where further technologies are to be proposed, and we should be careful on looking at them. At the moment, at least this is our state of knowledge. Powdered activated carbon and ozone stand out amongst the most, in terms of cost effectivity, amongst for sure the top one, and in the following is the listing of why. The thinking is having at least two options. Whatever you come up as new technologies, well, here is what you have to rate against. If you're better, very good. We're all very happy. Otherwise, we kind of stick to what we have. So, powdered activated carbon, the granular activated carbon, I think your experience is further than ours, so there is not much sense in me talking about this. Powdered activated carbon, the scheme here shall tell you it's meant to work as sorption only. Here we have a filter just next door which does biological degradation, sorption, as well, also biological degradation, powdered activated carbon, it will never stay in a system long enough to really count as growth media and then to do biological degradation. So in an easy scheme, we have a reaction container and then some kind of means to retain the powdered activated carbon. This is with a bit more details how you need to store the powdered activated carbon, and then you need some additives, normally some iron and some polymers to help the separation. And that's about it. Normally you would also recycle the carbon to the biological unit. This increases your sludge production by maybe 10% or so, but this increases the efficiency of the activated carbon quite a bit. And the rationale behind is, to my knowledge, not very clearly shown, so a bit speculative, but very probably, if you recycle the spent carbon to the biology, you end up absorbing some compounds which would compete with the target compounds down here. So the DOC level is a bit lower if you bring the carbon back here, and therefore the efficiency ends up being higher. But please take this interpretation as a bit speculative. What is the experience? Well, some piloting in Switzerland has been done at quite a decent scale, but in Germany we have full-scale wastewater treatment plant, which according to what I've been told is mainly because they have a discharge fee on the organic constituent of the wastewater discharged into the river, and this actually in Mannheim and also in southern Germany pays most of the activated carbon dosing, because the fee they would have to pay otherwise would be higher. In Switzerland, the first plant will go into operation in 2015. A couple of pictures from the unit in Mannheim, where the carbon is recycled to the activated sludge, which then of course looks pretty much black. And here some results, and these are the results where we mainly have to rate against. Sorry for the German text. Belebung is the activated sludge treatment. So we have a palette of treatment here, and this is the removal. And this is not the removal of one compound, but of all the compounds or all the effects that we have looked at. So here we're looking at 42 compounds. In the activated sludge treatment, around maybe 35% are being removed. Now, if we start dosing 12 milligrams per liter powdered activated carbon without recycling, then we get some 70% of removal. If we do 20% without recycling, we get on over a palette of 42 compounds, we get more than 80% removal. If we go, where is the recycling? Here. If we go to recycle, if we recycle the powdered activated carbon, then we get over 80% removal, even with only 10 milligrams per liter of powdered activated carbon. This is for Swiss wastewater, which has a chemical oxygen demand, a COD of roughly 300-400 milligrams per liter. Therefore, compared for the German wastewater, typically is a little bit more diluted. I don't know how it is for the Netherlands. But it's, on average, it's rather a diluted wastewater. So it might be that if you go to higher wastewater concentration, the doses are a bit higher. Now, the selection of the 42 compounds, of course, we did include the target compounds, and the 5 target compounds, carbamazepine, and so on. They were chosen because in terms of conventional wastewater treatment, they're very refractory. So they're not removed in nowadays wastewater treatment plant. So this selection of 42, we do think they are representative of them all. It's not that we chose just paracetamol or ibuprofen, that are two compounds which are quite nicely degraded aerobically. So with some 10 milligrams, maybe 15 milligrams of powdered activated carbon per liter of wastewater treatment, we do get over 80% removal on average. How about the other criteria? that a advanced treatment has to comply with? Well, we have seen the broadband effectivity. This is very good. This is given. Transformation products, we have none, because whatever gets sorbed onto the powdered activated carbon goes onto the sludge. The sludge is incinerated in the end, and within incineration we have a complete mineralization to carbon dioxide and water. But we do have some powdered activated carbon loss in the effluent. This is still to be confirmed, how exactly to retain the carbon sufficiently. So this is a little bit of an open issue. The applicability is good. The people, this is shown in the plant, full-scale plants in Germany, that the operators can handle it. There are some corrosion abrasion problems, so pumping may still cause slight problems, but it's expected from experience in drinking water. It's expected there are technical solutions. Then also the cost benefit with between 5 cents and 40 cents per cubic meter water, the cost effectivity is roughly given. Ozone. With ozone, the principle is that we chemically crack the compounds, and we're left with transformation products. A number of transformation products have been looked at in terms of biological activity, and the great majority, which we've seen up to now, have shown to on first ozone attack completely lose their effectivity. These are estrogens, all the antibiotics that have been looked at, and a few compounds more. As soon as they're attacked by ozone, their effect just disappears. The reactor, how does it look like? Well, we have to add the ozone, and then we have a chamber where ozone is brought into solution, and then a plug flow reactor where the reaction can take place. A little bit more in detail, we need to store the oxygen, because normally the oxygen, only in the small plant you would take the oxygen, extract the oxygen from the air. If you have a bit of a bigger plant, it's better to truck in the oxygen. Then you have a generator, then you have a bubble column. This has to be 4 meters or more, and you have a plug flow reactor which has like 20 minutes of contact time. And then you end up forming in here, this we've seen clearly, you end up forming some reactive compounds, aldehyde, ketones, and that's the basis why, in Switzerland at least, we do advise to have a sand filter later on. This sand filter does not have the purpose to retain particulates, but it has the purpose to grow a biofilm on here, so whatever reactive compounds comes out here will react in here, and therefore not be discharged into the river. So this is the technology. Where is the experience come from? Well, we did some piloting on full scale for 1 or 2 years in Regensdorf and Lausanne as well. Some plants on full scale are already equipped in France, in Germany, and in January 2014, very close to EAWAG where we are, the first ozonation plant will go into operation. And of course we have a palette of, I don't know, between 5 and 10 research program going on there to see how we control the ozone dosage during rain weather. Can we avoid a sand filter, or should we put better, are we better off if we put a GAC filter here, and so on. This is a look into the reactor, and here is the ozone tank of the piloting in Regensdorf. This was a 50,000 person equivalent plant. This here is the generator, and in here are the filters, the ozone reactors. Eliminations, here again, with a dose around 0.7 grams of ozone per gram of DOC, the DOC content that comes in with the wastewater. With this dosage, we normally get 80% or more removal. This again is the activated sludge. So on this location in Regensdorf we had a little bit more than 40% removal. In Lausanne we have a little bit less, but nowhere normally we don't get more than 50% removal. With ozonation we go over 80%, and again this is the entire palette that has been measured. So the criteria to rate the ozonation, the broadband effectivity is very good in terms of primary reactions. There are transformation products formed, quite a multiplicity, and there is still a bit of a question mark here whether we have looked at all the relevant effects to really make a statement on whether that they really do not have any relevant effect, but up to now we have not seen any relevant effect. Bromate formation can be a problem if you have a lot of bromide. So if saline or marine water intrusions are a problem, then bromate could be a problem. Nitrosamine formation can be in some places a problem, but to a far extent it's solved on the sand filter. So at the moment there is no reason for transformation products being a no-go for the technology. And then the applicability is good. The ozone reactor is quite easy to handle by the personnel with a little bit of awareness and education in terms of safety. Ozone is explosive, ozone is toxic. Well, then you can handle the plant. And also the cost benefit is a bit better. So we calculate between 5 cents and 20 cents per cubic meter. It's a bit lower, but the costs are not the key point in discriminating between processes. One fact that is rated important for ozonation is that we have 2 or 3 log units of pathogen or microbe removal with ozonation. With a powdered activated carbon filtration, we normally do 1 log unit or something like that. So if bathing water quality is a big topic, well, then this could be a topic for ozonation. Again, a look at the cost effectivity. Here again, the elimination with proper dosage, 10 or 25 milligrams of PAC, or then between half and 1 milligram of ozone, depending on the DOC level. Well, then you can reach 80% removal, you can reach the goal. Also, if you look at the palette of ecotoxicity measures, looking at fish early life stage, at worm effects, at photosynthetic effects, well, on average you get better water quality. Only in very rare cases you get a worsening of the effects. And one remark I may say as a more engineering-oriented person, as a person that does not have a lot of experience in terms of toxicology, I have the impression that the key tests to really monitor quality here, well, not the last word is said. There may be in the coming years that some discussion on which tests really are relevant to monitor quality. But at the moment, we do see a clear picture. Advanced treatment in terms of effect measurements normally gets a positive reduction, as well in vitro as also in vivo. Costs and energy, we can put them again just because they're quite important. If we compare ozonation and powdered activated carbon in a dosage that is typical for Swiss wastewater, well, we do see that in terms of on-site consumption, ozone is a little bit higher than powdered activated carbon. But if we calculate on primary energy, including the energy needed to activate the carbon, well, then ozonation is a bit cheaper But again, this is not the major point. The major point is that if we compare the consumption that advanced treatment for the Swiss strategy would consume compared to the entire electricity consumption of Switzerland, well, then we see that we would increase electricity consumption for Switzerland by less than 1%. The costs, again, here we did some cost estimation for small wastewater treatment plants, 6,000, or big ones, 600,000 person equivalents. You can find the numbers in your handouts. The key take-home message is, well, the price is size dependent, and if you don't have a sand filter, this costs normally more than ozonation or powdered activated carbon, or also if you have to refurbish a COD removing plant, upgrading the COD removing plant to nitrification, this costs factors more than implementing ozonation or powdered activated carbon. With this, I'd like to summarize the conclusions. So, reducing the micropollutant load is seen as relevant, and wastewater treatment plants are seen as a major source. There are different technological options that are feasible from a technological point of view and also from a cost point of view. The powdered activated carbon and ozonation are two options, and knowledge transfer and gathering knowledge is rated as very important. As a matter of, this is the main reason why the program, the strategy will be implemented not in 10 years but in over 20 years. With this, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Adriano, for your excellent presentation. It was quite impressive, I think. Other questions?
I would like to...
Staat de microfoon aan?
Hallo.
Ja, niet meer.
Clearly. I would like to know, do you treat all your flow from the wastewater treatment plant or just the dry weather flow?
That's a very good question. It's one of the detailed questions that has been pretty much discussed by consultants, engineers, and also the authorities. It looks like we're not treating all the water, because this would mean too big reactors. The discussion ongoing is between dry weather and twice the dry weather. And that's probably, but it's under discussion, yeah.
And your cost estimation that you showed, what is that on dry weather flow, or is that on treatment of all the flow? Is that what is the basis?
That's a bit of a detail I'm a bit shaky on, but I would expect that it's twice the dry weather flow. Yeah.
I have one other question, if I may. Is it also
Did I say yes? Of course.
Did I hear
yes?
Is it also an idea to change the scent filter behind the ozonation by a granular activated carbon? Would that be even better?
Yes, these are the side stream studies that are going to take place in 2014 at the wastewater treatment plant of Dubendorf, where we have a full-scale ozonation. There is already implemented a sand filter, and on the side stream we do on a pilot scale. We do a moving bed bioreactor. We do also a granular activated carbon. Yes, it's an open question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, are there any questions? I thought already noticed that there were. Yes?
Adriano, you mentioned that the difference between ozone and activated carbon was also the removal of the pathogens.
Yes.
Is that an issue in Switzerland? Disinfection, perhaps also antibiotic resistance of bacteria and so on?
It is an issue that is becoming bigger and bigger. I mean, Victor Merch, I think he left, isn't it? Just before he left, he just mentioned a case of the brewery where people, I think 2 co-workers did die because river water was taken for cooling the building, and they got an infection, and it could be shown that the bacteria that infected the persons actually did come from the wastewater treatment plant. So this is a case, but it fuels a discussion that is actually ongoing. In some rivers, we do not reach bathing water quality, and Switzerland getting more and more populated, and also the access, the rivers are being restored. So more and more people like to enjoy rivers. And yes, we do think more and more pathogen discharge will become a topic, and it's completely on our screens. Also, antibiotic resistances are a topic more and more addressed. We do have a problem in our hospitals, and it really looks like if antibiotics resistance is to be faced, this will be a multi-barrier system where we need barriers in the hospitals, but we will need also barriers on wastewater treatment plants, which are a bottleneck between urban water drainage and the environment. Yes.
Thank you very much. No more questions? No? Adriano, thank you.
Thank you.